when they were growing up. It might not be bullying. It might be, well, you're in a parent-teacher, what did they call them? Parent-teacher assessment or interview or something along those lines when your parents came in. And
parents' evenings.
Parents' evenings, yeah, that kind of stuff, right? Sit down
Listen,
there.
I know you were adopted, Rob, but you don't have to pretend you don't know what a parents' evening is.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what's that thing that parents do? Yeah, I don't know because I didn't have any. That was a dick.
No, that's funny, mate. That's funny. I like that. I appreciate that.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk, UK's #1 recruitment sector podcast. By a variety of metrics, we're a top 15% video Spotify podcast and have the largest following on YouTube so far, touch wood. So thank you very much for liking, subscribing, sharing and doing all the cool shit that you guys do to keep us #1. Today's episode is about the psychology of success. I am pleased to welcome back Dan Martin, good friend of mine now.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the psychology of success for recruitment business owners, mate. So first of all, thank you for joining me in my lovely new studio.
Yeah, look at this. Beautiful. Really, really homely.
Yeah.
No, it's nice, mate. Really cool.
Thank you. Right, so you wanted this episode to be around the psychology of success because you've kind of noticed a pattern, haven't you, with business owners. So over to you. Tell me about that, and let's kind of start unpicking the sort of the pattern that you've noticed and the whys and the whos and
I think this will be a really interesting and maybe quite challenging conversation for some people to hear. Success is obviously quite a subjective term, and it will mean different things to different people. If you search success on Google, you'll find that the definition you get is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose or objective. It's hitting the goal. And I think that for people who are, whether you define yourself as such or not, like a high performer, high achiever, ambitious individual, which to be a founder of a recruitment business, you have to be, otherwise you're not going to get very far. Success is something that is quite a compelling motivator for people, whatever that means to them. But if we go back to that definition of the accomplishment of an aim or objective, it suggests that to become successful, you have to complete something. And what I see really frequently in these high-performing founders of businesses is that the goalposts consistently get moved and moved and moved for the next thing. So success becomes this unattainable goal because the goal is always moving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people struggle with that. Now, I'm a prime example of that, right? Take the numbers on this podcast. I was like, right, if I can get to 10,000, that'd be wicked, and I might do like a little get together and invite back some of the guests. And then 10,000 came and went, and I was like, oh, we'll do it at 15. 15 came and went, 20, 25, 30. And now in my head, I'm going, I want to get to 100 by the end of this year. And I know what's going to happen. As I get closer to that number, I'm going to push that number even higher. Because it's sort of like, you don't stop to celebrate the wins and the successes. You kind of just like, it's more of a relief that you've got there. And then you move on to the next thing. And when I was running my recruitment business, it was the same. It was, right, there's two of us. When we make our first hire, we'll make a big song and dance about it. We didn't. We just made a hire, carried on. Made another hire, carried on. Made another hire, carried on. And you don't stop to celebrate those successes.
No.
Because you don't feel like they are a success. It becomes a checklist.
That's right. And this is the kind of topic of the conversation today, right? To be in that environment where you are leading a business, of course, you want to have goals that stretch. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate and you're not going to grow your business. But it kind of feeds back into the conversation that we were having last time I came on the show, where we were talking about motivation. And I explained the intrinsic motivation model, where we looked at purpose, mastery and autonomy, 3 components that make up intrinsic motivation. When you are applying goals which contribute towards that intrinsic motivation, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. But the topic that it would make the most sense for us to speak to today is extrinsic motivation, which is what most people get trapped in the recruitment sector. The definition of your success becomes what you own, what you can wear. There you go. That's right. They're the kind of goals and objectives that we're talking about here, because that's what most people will connect and resonate with. Most people aren't really speaking or thinking about intrinsic motivation. They're thinking about the next thing, which represents success to them. The next thing for most people who are in that position, you kind of got 6-figure salary, you're earning decent money, you got house, car, whatever. It's the newest car.
The next Rolex or the
next
one above
Rolex, like what we were speaking about off camera before in your previous world of recruitment. There was this thing where if you didn't have a certain type of shirt, then you were a nobody.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. 4 shirts for £100 from this one place, and unless you bought it from there, you haven't made it yet.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So
that kind of builds the foundation of what we're going to be talking about quite nicely here. But when you introduced me today, you said that I've noticed a pattern. So let me speak to that pattern that I've noticed a little bit here. Yeah. So, for context, the people who I typically work with are founders of businesses. Over the last year and a half, they have been recruitment founders, but as time goes on, I've had more founders apply to work with me, and the frame has got slightly larger. But humans are humans, and although the context of their work situation might be slightly different in terms of the industry that they're working in, or the type of people that they're leading, or whatever, the psychological and emotional problems that they experience are almost always the same. And the biggest pattern that I have seen when we talk about this success thing is a measure of someone's self-worth and confidence being defined by the things that they have as opposed to the things that they are. So a lot of people who work in these leadership roles, they haven't had the best upbringing a lot of the time, and it can be as a result of trauma, of loss, like grief, abuse, something along those lines. And as a result of that, they have quite low confidence when they're young. And because they have that, it often gets channeled into this drive to achieve and become successful, again. And the way that they will get evidence of that confidence and self-worth growing is by external means. So that could go back to what we were speaking about.
Filling the void that they had when they... It's funny, though, because actually a lot can be said for... as kind of time's progressed, I've realised that most people have a story. The majority of us had a tough upbringing, or had what we consider to be a tough upbringing, right? My upbringing was very different to yours, but we both would define it in a very similar in a similar way, right? It defined who we became as people. I think it also speaks a lot to the fact that a lot of entrepreneurs will say the same thing. So perhaps having a tough upbringing is what drives people to go, I'm going to eventually work for myself one day. Do you know what I mean? So maybe there's a link there. But more importantly, though, it's almost like we have this thing of like external validation, yes, but almost validating to our younger self that I made it, I did it. You know, we used to, and I did this from experience. I bought what is now a 22-year-old Porsche Boxster, right? It is my pride and joy. And everyone's like, well, you know what, like, it's just a Boxster, it's just this. It's like, no, because when I was in 2003, a year into me and my wife, going out and courting and all the rest of it, I would look at that car and go, one day. And I remember when I bought it, I told myself I was going to do this.
Yeah.
And that was a great piece of validation for me.
Yeah.
But an absolute stupid waste of money.
Yeah.
Because there's no fucking need to, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry. I think it's worth acknowledging that actually I think everybody would say they had a difficult upbringing in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a really nice frame that helps explain this trauma thing, because we hear the word trauma that gets thrown around a lot nowadays. And when most people hear the word trauma, what they automatically default to is the worst of the worst.
Yeah, so a traumatic experience.
Yeah, massive situation where, perhaps there's been an enormous car crash and multiple people have been killed, plane falls out the sky, someone gets murdered, really serious abuse. That absolutely is trauma, but that is capital T trauma, big T.
Yeah.
Not many people have experienced that capital T trauma.
No.
On the other end of the scale, you've got lowercase t trauma. Everyone has experienced a form of that. Myself, for an example, if you're not watching this back, I've got a ginger beard at this point, and as I was a kid, I had bright orange hair. So at school, a little bit chubby, orange hair, those little offhand comments, ginger, yeah, what's it like to be a redhead, this kind of stuff, that doesn't even compare on paper to the really big
my parents
instances of
passed away in a car crash.
Yeah, that's right.
But
it's not the same, but it's on the same scale.
The psychological impact of that
there you go,
can be measured back to the same thing, which is, am I good enough? Why me?
Yeah.
The self-worth thing.
That's right. So, everybody has experienced some form of that when they were growing up. It might not be bullying. It might be, well, you're in a parent-teacher, what did they call them? Parent-teacher assessment or interview or something along those lines when your parents came in. And
parents' evenings.
Parents' evenings, that kind of stuff, right? Sit down
Listen,
there.
I know you were adopted, right? But you don't have to pretend you don't know what a parents' evening is, right? Well, what's that thing that parents do? Yeah, I don't know because I didn't have any. That was a dick.
No, that's funny, mate. That's funny. I like that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So harsh. Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. So you know when you're in one of those evenings, and there'll be a lot of people who can connect to this, where the teacher says, well, his or her grades are okay, but if they just applied themselves a little bit more, then they'd be better. And it's those kind of instances which do compound over time and then can cause us to form what is either inferiority or a superiority complex where we feel like we've got this point to prove to the world, and that can be an incredibly motivating force. It's called like dark energy, right? Difference between dark energy and light energy. Dark energy being, fuck you, watch me, I'm going to prove you wrong. A lot of really successful people operate from that place and they've built an empire from it. Light energy being something like you shared earlier, where you're talking about, my intention for this podcast is because I believe that everybody has a story to tell, and I don't want family to hear that story when they're at their funeral. That should be told before. That's like light energy. It's coming from a place of there's good that can be done here, and most people have got a preference towards either more dark or more light. Generally speaking, it'll be more dark energy, particularly for people who work in the corporate world. And coming back to the theme that I was speaking about earlier, the pattern that I've noticed is that a lot of these people who are in leadership positions of recruitment businesses are operating from that place of darkness. They've experienced some kind of difficulty when they were growing up, maybe one of the reasons that I've mentioned today, and they have this desire to go and prove a point. Say, watch me, I can achieve this. And the ways that they will evidence that to themselves is often through extrinsic means. So it could be, like I said, the house, the car, the watch, the clothing, the validation that comes through being in that position. But unfortunately, it's a futile goal because it is not coming from within you. When you achieve enough wealth to go out and buy yourself a Yachtmaster, what do you want? Well, you want the next one.
But I think you got to accept, though, that it's almost like people have to go through this journey of buying all the shit they don't need before they realise they don't need it. You know what I mean? Because you can tell somebody until they're blue in the face, but they're not going to hear it until they go through those emotions of, I bought all the watches, I did all the cars, I did everything, and I still felt empty. And then it wasn't until I realised that. You know what I mean? And I think you've got to accept that, unfortunately, people have got to go through that journey. You know? People can tell you to the blue in the face, switch off from social media every now and then, do a detox, do this, do that. But until you go and do it, until you experience it for yourself, you can't truly appreciate that side of things. So I kind of feel like you owe it to your younger self, to your traumatized self, to do these things. Because you almost need to tick that off to go, I fucking did it. I said I was going to, and I did it, right? But then you've got to have this level of, or element of maturity phase where you then realise that, do you know what? The house is never going to be big enough. The car is never going to be fast enough. The watch is never going to be blingy enough, right? Because for every 1,000 people there are behind you looking at you going, I wish I had that watch, that car, that coat, that whatever. There's 100 people ahead of you that you're looking at going, I wish I could if I could just get to that point, and there's this never-ending cycle. Until you then go, do you know what? No, my measure of success is this, 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 and this. I did a little exercise at the start of this year with my close circle of kind of people that I hang around with a lot in the recruitment space, and went like, how was your year last year? In 2024, everybody had a bad year, and they all went, oh shit, it was this, it was that, blah 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 blah. In fact, I did a post about this as well, and I was like, okay, now remove the money metric away.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of that. Money's not important right now. Let's get rid of that. How was your year last year? And then we're like, well, we weren't actually. You know, well, I mean, we did do that. Oh, we didn't achieve. And actually, well, exactly. So we've put so much focus and importance on money, and it is important because it helps us achieve the things that we need to achieve or want to achieve. But when you remove that stress and pressure of the money element of it, and then look at it, all of a sudden your year was very different. You know, for me it was, I worked on my marriage, spent a lot more time with my kids. I grew something from what was essentially nothing to the biggest thing that's out there. I got to, you know, headline, close off shows, invite for talks, all this cool shit that I never ever dreamt would be possible because my focus wasn't that money metric. Yeah. You know, and I think that there's a lesson to be learned within that in terms of what do you quantify as success? Because if your measure of success is entirely linked to how much money you made that year. First of all, I think that's a pretty sad existence, personally. But secondly, I feel like you're always going to set yourself up for a fall. You can always earn more. You could have always done more. You could have done an extra deal. You know. Yeah. It's sort of like, well, you're always going to feel unfulfilled. Surely
you are. It's futile, and it's very similar to what we spoke about last time, when money was a big topic of conversation. Go into the psychology of money at a high level here. As Brits, we have a very bizarre relationship with money. I don't know if you've spent much time speaking to people of other nationalities. Generally, it's not as emotional of an issue as it is for us Brits. We have so much guilt and shame associated with money that it becomes such an inherent part of our identity as we become adults, and it's like high net worth equals high self-worth a lot of the time. And that I say that with the caveat that, you know, if I'm homeless and I've not got a job, obviously my self-worth is going to be low. It goes without saying. But the people who are listening back to this podcast, that won't be a problem for them. But what they are probably doing at this point is equating their net worth with their self-worth. And you think about that early upbringing that we have, money is often the topic of really emotionally charged conversations when we're young. Again, people come from a difficult upbringing where perhaps in their family home money wasn't abundant, and you know, we look to the other kids that we were around in school and see that they had the coolest pair of trainers or the nicest bag and the cool hat and clothes, and we didn't have that, so we feel like, oh fucking hell, what is it about me that doesn't deserve that? You know, we internalize all of this kind of stuff as being our fault as kids.
Yeah, and I wonder what if that is then why it becomes so important. I think it was for me. You know, I grew up in a rubbish area of Coventry and was fortunate enough to make friends with, you know, people that were quite kind of comfortable, right? Parents would, you know, their parents would go, oh, you know, oh, what do you mean you've never been fishing? Oh, I'll take you fishing one day. And I'm like, well, listen, my dad lives on the other side of the fucking planet, and my brother's raising me, and like he's all working all the time. You know, like we raise each other, sort of thing. Like fishing is the last thing on my mind, but yeah, cool. And I remember I'd go to like parties or I never had a sleepover anywhere, but I'd go and spend time at my friends' houses and then come home and be like, you lot need to step the fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they are living over there.
Yeah.
Like, what, this is not right, you know?
Yeah.
But then that was always in the back of my mind. It's like, my kids are never going to go without, you know?
Yes.
I'll go without, but they won't, you know?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, which that's a good, positive sort of driver of success and that kind of thing. But then when it airs into sort of, you know, kind of not teaching them the value of money. Yeah. I feel like I maybe am letting them down in that sense, you know what I mean? But then when you say what you're saying there about we put far too much emphasis on money and importance on money, maybe that's why, you know what I mean? Because we were always taught how important it was. Yeah. But that's why we chase it so much. Yeah. Whereas perhaps those who are raised in a way where they don't want for much and money isn't the prime motivator or equator of success, their minds and their worlds are far more open, and so they can achieve more. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Like, yeah. I don't know if you've done much traveling, but last time I came on, I just got back from Colombia. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I went to Peru, and what I noticed in going to places like that was that the vast majority of people there haven't got much. They are living in what is nearly poverty much of the time.
Yeah, what we would consider it to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, comparatively to what we have in the West, especially in England here, it's barely anything at all. Yet their quality of life is much higher, retrospectively compared to what we have, and it says a lot about the culture that we live in, which is primarily centered in this capitalistic model where money is everything. The more that you have, the more you will want.
Yeah.
Right? And it can be quite destructive in that sense. But yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you got that World Economic Forum quote from 2016. You know, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Yeah,
right?
I saw that.
And immediately people are like, oh, they're going to take everything away from us. They're trying to do this and trying to do that. But you are right. Actually, in certain parts of the world,
yeah,
they don't focus on ownership of things.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they are happy.
Mm.
So is there some? But then I suppose the contrast to that conversation is quite clear, isn't it? It's, you know, capitalism has made more millionaires and has made pulled more people out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Forget even millionaires and billionaires. It's pulled more people out of poverty than any other time in history. So, you know, we all have running water. We all have a roof over our heads.
Yeah, that's right. Well, polarity is the core currency of life, isn't it? Without up, there is no down. Without forward, there is no back. Without good, there is no bad.
Yeah.
So when we have this conversation about money, is it all bad? No. It's the lens through which you view it that makes it either not even good or bad, positive, fulfilling or unfulfilling.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. That's what it is. Like, I had this moment of kind of self-reflection last year where I was kind of like, look, you know, I've had the pleasure of being incredibly financially comfortable, and I've had the misfortune of being stupidly overdrawn and worrying about how am I going to pay this and what am I going to do and what am I going to do. But I survived in both of those scenarios. And so then that kind of for me personally certainly shapes how you view the world, which is, you know, the quote I always use is, you know, I've wined and dined with kings and queens, and I've slept in alleys and dined on pork and beans. Right, I could do both.
I like that.
And you know, and you know, but I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, certainly in recruitment, and from experience, I've seen this where they almost put so much emphasis on that materialistic success.
Yeah.
That then without that, they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Because they actually haven't got any more substance, but they haven't put any value on the other things in their life. So that without the Rolex and without the brand new car and without the big fancy house, you know, and without that, I don't even know who I am. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's the identity piece, isn't it? And that's a really good topic of conversation for us to focus on. In recruitment, especially, there is an over-emphasis on what do you want in terms of the things that you want. And this, again, extrinsic form of motivation is encouraged. We see it in the incentive schemes that most recruitment businesses will put in front of people. You know, it might be an Amazon voucher, it might be a fancy restaurant. It might be a holiday. It might be this or that. And for some people, that will work. You know, it definitely will. But success is not a number. It's a feeling. Success is a feeling. It's about the journey of what I call self-mastery. You know, who do you want to become? Which by becoming that person will give you that baseline feeling of fulfillment, joy, and satisfaction. Because that's really what we're all chasing. It's joy. And people will feel that in a fleeting moment when they go and buy the watch or the car or whatever. Yeah, it feels good. I'm not going to deny that. I like nice things at times. I'm not saying that I live like a monk and I don't want anything. I like to buy myself a nice t-shirt every now and again, and it does feel good to do that. But if we're constantly chasing that feeling unconsciously because it gives us that spike of dopamine and serotonin that makes us feel good.
That's the science behind it, isn't it?
That's the
all
science.
It is.
Yeah.
That is all it is. It's a momentary... Listen, we all do it, right? We buy nice, clean pair of white trainers and we keep them clean for about a month. And then the first time they get a big scuff, we're like, fuck it. And then they we just let them, do you know what I mean? Let them kind of wither away.
Yeah.
Same thing with your phone, with your brand new laptop. I've got a brand new MacBook. I'm wiping it all down and making it all look pristine until that one time I get a scratch on it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore, right? Do you know what you don't do that with? Your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your wife or your husband, your children, the other things that make you feel successful, your friendships, you know what I mean? You don't preserve them until they get tarnished, and then you're like, fuck it, I don't care about this anymore. You don't.
No.
And they're also the things that make people feel successful. Right? And I think there's almost not enough conversation around that, where people are like, I'm just lonely. We run the Recruitment Curry Club, right? And the whole concept behind that is, we're not here to talk about sales. We're not here to sell you shit. Or no one here is here to sell anyone anything. What we're here to do is go, how you really doing? Like, what's really going on with you, right? Because we genuinely want to be able to help each other, because there might be something that I know that you haven't thought about, and I can help you because you've gone, here's my vulnerabilities, right? It's been incredibly successful, because what we realised very quickly was there's not really that many platforms for people to be vulnerable and honest and open. And so you have to pretend that everything's okay, and you have to pretend that you're doing incredibly well, because the whole world is watching. More now than ever before. The world's watching you. So you better grow your business year on year. You better, get that. You've had that watch for 3 years. What do you mean? Get another one.
Not good enough.
Well, was it? Is it not doing very well, are we? Just little things like that. But the truth is, like we said out there, no one gives a fuck. No one actually cares. No one's looking at you going, he's had that watch a few years, or oh, I didn't expect you to live in a house like this. You know what I mean?
They're stories. They're stories, and they come from that past experience that we have. That's what creates those harsh, quite destructive voices of the inner critic. It's often not our voice that we're carrying there. It's moments that we've had when we're in our formative years of life, which have hurt us and caused a significant emotional response when we're young, that create a belief system that then becomes our frame of reference for how we view the world later in life. So if we've been made to feel like we're not enough, like we're not as high value to our friends or family when we're young, then we will go out of our way almost unconsciously to try and disprove that hypothesis later in life. And a car becomes a really nice tangible metric of doing that, because it's shiny, it's visual. People say, wow, nice car, man. And you go, I know. I know, it's new. Yes.
All these people like my car. No one gives a fuck about it.
No,
really.
they don't. They don't give a fuck
about
it.
I've had this from I've had this from personal experience, right? Last year I went all the way around the country in my car, right? And I've had, I'd say maybe like less than half a dozen people have commented like, I didn't expect you to be driving that. And not what are you driving that for? It was, I didn't expect you to be driving. I drive a 20-year-old E-Class Mercedes. For the sole reason that I can turn a spanner to it if it breaks. That is my driver. That is the reason, because my mate's really good on fixing them. If there's anything I can't do, he will do. And I don't have an abundance of cash coming in right now. So I don't see the value in getting a £500-600 car on lease. Just show people, fucking Nitin's smashing it. Do you know what shows people I'm smashing it? What I post on LinkedIn, the connections I make, the work I'm doing, my podcast, right? That for me is like you want to see how well I'm doing, there's my metric for that. If you're going to judge how well I'm doing based on my car, like, bro, I feel sorry for you, man. And I've had people be like, I didn't expect you to be driving that. And I've been like, why? What did you think I was going to drive? And they're like, well, I just thought you would want to drive something flashy. And I'm like, this is flashy to me. Listen, it starts every time. It's taken me all around the country, innit? And I've never had an issue. They're like, no, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that you drive it. That's what that's what I would be doing. I wish I'd have thought of something like that.
It's so crazy, isn't it? I can really empathise with this and have my own personal story to add to that. When I was 23, 24, I was going through that period where I did feel like I had a point to prove. So, I've still got them. I've probably got like 8 or 9 suits in the cupboard at home, which are all completely the same pretty much. But I just felt like, there's a new one. I should go and get that.
Get it.
Got to get that. At the same time, I'm living in a 1-bedroom flat in Hitchin, Hertfordshire, which I can't afford. I'm in my overdraft every single month. Can barely pay the bills. And yet I'm paying £500 a month for a Seat Leon Cupra. And I feel like the man. I feel like the man. But inside, that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm doing that to try and medicate insecurity because I don't feel enough. And the car makes me feel like I am, even if it's causing this debilitating perpetual state of anxiety and stress because I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pay it. It's this disconnection and unalignment, like we were speaking about earlier, between the person who we present to the world and the person who we really are. And a lot of people have got that disconnection, which is where the definition of success for them is not even defined, so that they're creating what they perceive is success through the external means. But
do you think the definition of success to people is how it makes them feel? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, we all know drugs are bad, but people do it anyway, knowing that they're bad, knowing that there's no good that comes out of this.
Yeah.
But they do it because it momentarily, even if it is momentarily, it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
So is it really fair for us to then point and go, you should know better than that? Do you know what I mean? Like, we know it feels, any form of, whether it's addiction or whatever, we all know there are things that we should do, shouldn't do, and, and all the rest of it. But why do we have to be so kind of hard on ourselves in the, look, I know it doesn't make financial sense for me to buy a Rolex, but it makes me feel good. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Is it really fair to judge somebody who's materialistic?
No, definitely not judge. Intention is everything, right? Because whilst I personally wouldn't go out and buy a Rolex, I can understand the psychology of somebody who looks at what Rolex have done as a brand, in positioning themselves as, the real supreme premium luxury brand, at the same time as creating genuinely impeccably made watches. Like, if you look at the way in which they're constructed and the engineering,
there's a reason they're worth what they're worth.
Right. If you look at that and you go, actually, I actually love the way that the mechanics work together, and I can see how this cog perfectly integrates with this one. And if you look at how the second hand moves with pinpoint precision and how smoothly it goes round, I appreciate that and I love that, and I just want to own that as an investment. This episode is
sponsored by Rolex.
yeah. But like,
other Swiss watches are really
Like,
you're right.
If you look at that and go, I get.
If you're buying it for the appreciation of what it is, great. If you're buying it for the clout of what it brings,
correct.
Maybe you've got to look inside a bit more and go, why am I doing this?
Same thing with cars, mate. The same thing. Like, I genuinely do have a passion for cars, and I love, like early 1990s Japanese like sports cars, like a Toyota Supra or a Nissan Skyline. Mate, they're crazy expensive now. Like, for that era Skyline, you're probably looking at about 100 grand plus. I don't have that kind of money. If I did have that kind of money, that'd be the first car that I bought, because I just appreciate it and I love it, and I think that they're beautiful and really, really cool. Am I doing that because I want everyone to say, wow, nice Skyline, Dan? No, I don't really care about that. In fact, I'd probably be more inclined to put it in a garage and just stare at it.
I think that's where it kind of, there's your kind of break point, isn't it? Is look at your measures of success. So we talk about the psychology of success. Look at what you measure and how you measure your success, and then ask yourself why. Right. And if at the other end of that conversation, it's because you genuinely like these things and these things mean something to you, then great. But if the question still remains like, I'm not entirely sure why I do it, well, maybe that's the time to start going, okay, I think I need to maybe evaluate some of the decisions that I'm making in life. Right?
Absolutely. Easy way to do that. I can share a story about a client which I worked with early last year. This was a very successful guy who worked in investment banking, had been for his whole life. He was in his mid-50s at the time that I was working with him, and we'd kind of gone through the coaching process where we'd looked at what was really holding him back, and it was feeding into that stuff we spoke about earlier, whereas parts of his childhood that were unfavourable, and he hadn't really overcome that or come to terms with exactly what it all meant to him as an adult. So we did that internal processing of that, and then moved into kind of intention, where he wants to go, what kind of life he wants to create. And I just started asking him about his passion. So I'd really like to understand my clients and get to know what they're about. And similar to me, he had a real passion for cars. I was like, okay, well, what car do you want? Like, if you could have any car in the world, what would you like? And he went, it's funny you should ask that, because I've been really considering what to do next in terms of my like the midlife crisis car. He wasn't going through a midlife crisis, but you know, he wanted to buy himself something special. I said, well, what car would you want if you have anything in the world? He went, Ferrari 355. Always loved Ferrari 355s. I went, okay, why? What is it about 355? He went, well, the way that the chassis is designed, it's set up in this perfect way where you've got 50-50 weight distribution, and it means that when you go around a corner, you don't get any body roll. And he started to go into all sorts of immense detail about this car. And I was like, wow, you really like that, don't you? And he went, yeah, I do. I really, really want it. And a question I always ask when someone comes out with something like that to understand, well, what's the desire here? Is this coming from a place of darkness or light? Yeah. Say, if nobody else knew that you had that, would you still want it? He went, yeah. I went, go buy the car. And he did. And we went and bought the car. And it's the best decision he ever made. So speaking to what you said earlier, if somebody is looking at their choices and going, I don't know if this is coming from the right place, ask yourself, if nobody else knew that I had this, would I still want it? If yes, buy the thing.
By all means, do it.
Buy the thing. Because that's coming from an authentic place within yourself. If no, you're doing it from a place of validation and seeking approval, buying the thing is not going to resolve that. You're going to put a plaster over it. You'll get that fleeting moment of joy where everything feels fine, and then you'll be right back to where you started, and you want to go further next time.
With the addition of the bill.
Yeah, with the addition of the bill. Yeah, that's right.
Your problem hasn't gone away.
Yeah, that's right.
It's there, and then you've got someone else to add to it. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, no, that's it's a tough one because this is the world we live in now, though.
Yeah.
You know, the world that we've created, the world that we live in is everything kind of behind that lens doesn't matter. Everything in front of the lens is what matters. You know, what do people see? What do people think about me? And we touched on this briefly a moment ago, but actually we obviously spoke about it a lot more off camera, which is around kind of these personas that we create on LinkedIn. I need everybody in my connections to think and believe that I'm successful. And then the way I word things and the way I act and behave, I need my team and the people around me in my business to believe that I'm successful. But then when that door closes and I sit down, do I truly think and believe that I'm successful? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or are those two things that I'm putting out there are just a portrayal of what I wish I was?
Yeah.
And fundamentally, I'm not in a happy place. I don't feel like of value.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. We've got this obsession with authority, particularly on LinkedIn. Everybody wants to become an authority, want to become a thought leader, want to become the man or the woman in my space. And you don't do that by being a dick and writing in a really abrasive way. You do that by, firstly, removing all of the bullshit that's holding you back, because everybody has it. Everybody has got that stuff. Once you've removed what really holds you back, you will feel a lot more confident in standing up for what you truly believe in. There will be certain beliefs that you have about the world that before sorting all of the internal bullshit out, you wouldn't have felt confident and comfortable in communicating. The reason why people become thought leaders is because they're challenging the status quo in some way. They're looking at the way in which the world operates, and there's something that triggers them and pisses them off and goes, that's not cool. I disagree with that. Here's why. I don't believe that's the right way to do things. Like, for example, the motive that drives all of the work that I do, particularly with people who are in the corporate environment, is that I firmly believe everybody deserves to feel safe, fulfilled, and happy at work. And the vast majority of people don't. It's a sad truth that most people
one
are
of those things at least is missing.
Yeah, they're working out of necessity because maybe they've gone and bought something that they can't really afford, and now they've got lots of bills that are looming over their head. But for many people, it's not even that. For many people, it's just, I can't really make ends meet, and this is the only option that I have to go and put food on the table for myself and my children. And that becomes really difficult because a lot of people feel like they're trapped in an environment in which they don't feel fulfilled and happy. And I don't believe that that should be the case. You know, I don't believe that that should be the case. So, slight divergence from what we were speaking about there, but it comes back to what we were speaking about, which was that, you know, there is an inherent disconnection for many people in the persona which they present to the world and the persona in which they truly are behind closed doors when no one's watching. And success, in my definition, is removing that disconnection and ensuring that there is alignment between the person who you present to the world and the person who you are when nobody's watching. If you can create that authenticity in character, it will feel like you have achieved some form of success.
You're absolutely right. I echo, 100% echo that. Yeah, you can't pretend to be something you're not.
Fake it till you wait, mate. Fake it till you make it. Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. And look, I worked in retail banking before I moved into the recruitment industry. I worked for Coventry Building Society, left before I got sacked. I worked for Barclays, got sacked. Worked at Nationwide Building Society, left before I got sacked. Worked at Skipton Building Society, got sacked. I was great at those jobs. And I mean, fantastic. Top performer in the sales side. You know, had the best branches in terms of when I was managing the branches. In terms of net promoter scores and everything else. All the metrics they set in front of me, I'd smack them out the park. But I wasn't a corporate fit. I was not what they expected a retail bank manager to look like, to sound like, to act like, you know. Then I move into the recruitment space, same thing. I worked at one of the largest brands in Michael Page and taught me everything I know. And then I, you know, and enough to go off and do it for myself. Yeah. But I didn't fit. I didn't fit. We'd sit around a leadership meeting and we'd be talking about like, how can we do this and how do we do that? And I'd sit there and go, guys, a monkey could do this job. Like, this isn't a difficult job. You know, we've got people out there that are, you know, jumping on the beer trolley at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Maybe fix that. You know, we've got people out there that are going out on a Thursday night, getting pissed and coming in hungover on the Friday and wasting an entire day. Maybe fix that. You know, this meeting is pointless. And then I get pulled back to a side by a director and you're like, you can't be that way. You can't say that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I'm like, I'm the issue here. Like, I don't fit this mold. Yeah. You know, I faked it at the interview. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full. Yeah. And then the true you starts coming out, and then you're like, I don't feel comfortable here. Yeah. And we've all been, I say we've all been there. Many people have been there. And it's not until you then start being who you are, because when you are who you are and you're authentic, the ones who don't like you aren't going to like you anyway. Yeah. They're never going to like you. Yeah. That's cool. But the ones who are like you or do like you, they'll find you. And then you've got a nice little community of people who you can be your authentic true self with. And when you're not having a great day, you can be honest and not, I'm having a great day. Yeah. And when you're having a fantastic day, they're going to cheer you on and celebrate your successes. Are you going to go viral and get 5,000 likes on your post? No. But are you going to get the same 50 people going, proud of you, mate? Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. And do you know what? One of those things means more than the other.
Yeah. There's a frame in coaching. Those who mind don't matter. Those who matter don't mind. Meaning, the people who are really important to you, they don't give a fuck in the best way possible. Not in a bad way, not in the sense that they don't care about you. They absolutely do. No. And those who do have a issue or take a problem with what you say or what you do, they're not important. Let them think what they think. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
My late dad used to say a phrase all the time, and I used to say it to my staff all the time, which was kind of like a donkey's going to kick. Right, like if you're walking down the road, you see a donkey, and you go over, oh, cool little donkey, and it kicks you. What do? Do you kick it back, or do you go, it's a donkey, donkey's kick? Yeah, like, stupid me for getting too close. Yeah, right. Yeah, same thing.
Absolutely,
same thing. Like there are always going to be people who are going to point at you and be like, where's your watch? Yeah, you work in recruitment. Why'd you drive that car? Listen, donkeys are going to donk, man. Like, that's just the way it is. Yeah. Let them do that. Yeah, you know, you stay on your path, be happy, you know, focus on the things that genuinely bring you joy and bring you not just a momentary feeling of success, but actually bring you success in terms of what you define as success. Yeah. Success for me last year was I needed to spend more time with my kids. I needed to get my marriage back on track. And I wanted to grow something from the nothing that I ended up in. Yes. I did all of those things. Ticked all those things off. I had a great year. You know what I mean? And I came into this year being like, that was a successful year.
Yeah. What was the feeling that gave you? What would you call that?
Relief to a certain degree. Yeah. Look, it wasn't as I was like, now I'm going to have a party. Yeah. You know, we're people who are driven in the way that people like us are. The goal gets hit and then you move on. You keep raising the bar. Right. You know? For me, my whole thing is, listen, I am way, way, way further ahead than I ever deserved to be. With my background, where I grew up, my social conditioning, my economic background, kind of the environment that I grew up in, I'm already winning. Like, I'm already doing better than I'm supposed to be. Like, every day is a blessing, So but for me, it's just a case of, okay, if we've got this far, let's just go that little bit further.
Yeah.
I love hiking. I love walks and trails in the Lake District. Same thing. I'll get to this point. Oh, I'm feeling a bit knackered now. Well, just get to there. We'll take a break a minute. We'll take in the scenery and all that. Right, let's do that. Let's go that far now. Let's just keep pushing that a little bit further. Just keep raising the bar. What I don't do is go, got that Rolex. Let me get another Rolex. Take a picture of it. Put it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say I've never done the hand on the steering wheel like this with a cup of whatever in my hand.
You could get away with it.
I wouldn't even know how the fuck to even take that picture. You know what I mean? Like, how they're taking it with their mouth or what? Do you know what I mean? But like, that doesn't like bother me at all. I have people say to me all the time, like, "Oh, mate, like, you don't mention much on your LinkedIn. You don't mention much about your podcast on your Facebook or your Instagram." Yeah, it's because this is my Facebook and my Instagram.
Yeah,
my Instagram is basically full of pictures of my kids. Yeah, so I can look back and show them over the years. I look, like, this is how much you've grown, and this was you through my eyes. And my Facebook is basically used to buy car parts.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, nice.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's because I don't get that joy and that dopamine hit from the 25 likes, 50 likes.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's taken a long time to get to that point.
Yeah, it will do, and I think it's a result of finding inner peace, and that only comes through confronting all of the stuff that's there, and that does take a long time for many people, because there's a staged process, and perhaps we could chat about this another time because it's quite a deep one. But I think there are 4 levels to becoming authentic, I believe. One is self-awareness. Simply, who am I? Why do I think the way I think? Why do I feel the way I feel? Why am I the way I am?
Yeah, I like that.
Self-discovery, layer deeper. What's important to me? What do I find important? What actually lights me up inside? Not at a superficial materialistic level. What brings me joy and happiness? So this is values, like authenticity, courage, growth, whatever you find important. Then self-love. This is where most people get stuck, actually, because when we hear self-love, we get this really fluffy idea of, well, if I just tell myself I love myself in the mirror every day, then I will. It doesn't work like that. Self-love is healing all the parts of yourself that you've learned to dislike. Sounds paradoxical and quite deep and difficult, but that is how you love yourself. It's by forgiving yourself for what you have not been proud of over the years, or things that have happened to you that you have to confront, and that can take some time. That's where the journey is really lost or won. And then from that point you get to self-mastery. Self-mastery is authenticity. It's having the courage to be disliked, to be able to speak up for what you truly believe in, and put yourself in the firing line a little bit, because that you back yourself and you have these beliefs that you feel are going to impact the world for the better in some way. It's a journey to get to that place, and I think that's really where I could give somebody like a take-home point here. There's a journey to work through, almost like a blueprint. That's the way you want to be going to achieve sustainable success that doesn't feel fleeting, that doesn't leave you back at square one wondering where the fuck all of your time has gone. It's an inside job, success. It really is. And if you can get to that place of self-love, you'll achieve a very, very high quality of life. If you can get to self-mastery, I think that you'd be very successful.
I think very few people can get to that point. Well, very few people do get to that point, though, do they?
No, they're not willing a lot of the time, but that's not through any fault of their own. It's because that it's a hard thing to know where to start, and a lot of people have this idea where it's like the lone wolf mentality. I can figure everything out on my own. Yes. And sure, you can get there on your own, but if you work with the right person, or you have a really good network of friends and connections who hold up a mirror to you and call you out on your bullshit, which everybody should have, I believe. It helps us see things that perhaps we might not have been able to see ourselves. And I think that's why most people don't get there, is because they're just kind of ignorant to what could be holding them back. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mate, that's insightful. We'll dig into those things and on the next episode, because as I said to you last time, I'd love to have you back on. I really genuinely enjoy our conversations. and sort of the thought-provoking kind of side of it.
Mm.
If there's people out there that have got something valuable out of this and want to kind of continue the conversation with you, here's your chance to plug away, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out most of the time. It's the end of the domain, isn't it, on LinkedIn? Mine is The Dan Martin. So linkedin.com/The Dan Martin. And then my website is the same as that as well. So go to www.thedanmartin.com. Check it out. And if anything that I've spoken about today resonates or has perhaps brought something up for you that you would like to explore, then send me a message. No expectations from my side. I'm not going to pitch you. Would love to get an understanding of what it brought up, and if I can give you some resources that I've got for free, I'd love to do that. So send me a message.
Amazing. That's it from us for another episode of RecTalk. We'll see you again at the next one. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the things that you guys do to keep us on top. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Mate, genuinely, thank you. I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was cool, huh? That was cool.